Hello everyone, welcome to Biomystery. I am Vendrila Bonik and today I am going to discuss with you the part 5 of carbohydrate metabolism, that is pentose phosphate pathway. This pathway is a very small pathway, but it is very important like all other pathways because the two products that are formed from this pathway, they have wide applications and they have many functions in other reactions. So let's introduce the pathway. It is an irreversible oxidative reactions in which one carbon of the glucose 6-phosphate is released as carbon dioxide. This is the first product that is formed, NADPH second, and ribulose 5-phosphate. Now these two, ribulose 5-phosphate and NADPH, these two products are very important and it has wide applications. So let's see. NADPH that is produced, it is used for reductive biosynthesis, that is for the synthesis of fatty acid, and also for protecting us from oxidative damage. And the ribulose 5-phosphate that is produced is used to provide ribose 5-phosphate. This ribose 5-phosphate is used in the production of RNA or DNA, that is in nucleotide synthesis. Or ribulose 5-phosphate can be used to generate pentose phosphate, which enters into non-oxidative portion of the pathway. So this pathway has two phases. One is oxidative phase, another one is non-oxidative phase. That is one part of the pathway is an oxidation reaction where it is irreversible in nature. Another part is an reversible and non-oxidative path. So let's start with the oxidative reactions of the pentose phosphate pathway. This is irreversible reaction where glucose 6-phosphate is converted to 6-phosphogluconolactone by the enzyme glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase with the release of NADPH. So you can see glucose 6-phosphate is oxidized. So for oxidation, dehydrogenase is the enzyme which is required along with the formation of NADPH. Now this 6-phosphogluconolactone that is produced, it is hydrolyzed to 6-phosphogluconate, and for this the enzyme used is gluconolactonase. Now this 6-phosphogluconate that is formed, it is decarboxylated and oxidized to ribulose 5-phosphate using the enzyme 6-phosphogluconate dehydrogenase, releasing NADPH and carbon dioxide. So these are the three reactions of oxidative pathway of pentose phosphate cycle. So glucose 6-phosphate is the first substrate which is converted to 6-phosphogluconolactone. 6-phosphogluconolactone is hydrolyzed to 6-phosphogluconate. This is then decarboxylated and oxidized to ribulose 5-phosphate. So this, let's see the reaction. You can see how glucose 6-phosphate in one reaction they have shown oxidation as well as hydrolysis, producing 6-phosphogluconate. So you can see since it is undergoing oxidation reaction, one NADPH is produced. Now this 6-phosphogluconate is converted to ribulose 5-phosphate. Again this is another oxidation reaction, another molecule of NADPH is produced. So overall 2 molecules of NADPH are produced and 1 molecule of carbon dioxide is formed. So till here it is the oxidative reaction and which is irreversible in nature. So now let's move on to the non-oxidative reaction. These are reversible reactions in which ribulose 5-phosphate is isomerized to ribose 5-phosphate. This ribose 5-phosphate is needed for the synthesis of nucleotides, that is DNA or RNA, or this ribulose 5-phosphate may be epimerized to xylulose 5-phosphate, which is needed for fructose 6-phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate synthesis. So let's see, ribulose 5-phosphate, it is isomers to ribose 5-phosphate, because ribulose and ribose, these two are isomers to each other. That means they have the same molecular formula but they have different structural formula. How they are structurally different? You see, in the first carbon atom of ribulose 5-phosphate, one alcohol group is there, and in the second there is a ketone group. And in ribose 5-phosphate, the first carbon atom is an aldehyde and the second has become an alcohol. So this is how they are isomers to each other. So ribulose 5-phosphate can be converted to ribose 5-phosphate, and this ribose 5-phosphate is utilized in nucleic acid synthesis. So this is one part, and other part is that ribulose 5-phosphate can be epimerized to xylulose 5-phosphate. That means epimers are those carbon atoms or those compounds where in the carbon atom there is one change in the a group, like in the conformation of one group. For example, you can see here in this third carbon atom, the alcohol group is on the right hand side, and in xylulose 5-phosphate, the alcohol group is on the left hand side. So see this alcohol group, how they are changing their position, remaining in the same carbon atom. So these two are epimers to each other. So ribulose 5-phosphate can be epimerized to xylulose 5-phosphate. Now xylulose 5-phosphate will enter into this non-oxidative reactions that are reversible in nature. So what will happen? So let's see. So this ribose 5-phosphate and xylulose 5-phosphate may undergo reactions to form fructose 6-phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate with the help of transaldolase and ketolase, which will transfer carbon atom. So this you can see in xylulose 5-phosphate, in the xylulose 5-phosphate and in ribose 5-phosphate there will be transfer of carbon atom, where in xylulose 2 carbon atom you can see is transferred to ribose 5-phosphate. So ribose had 5 carbon atoms, 2 carbon atoms have been added. Now it has formed a 7 carbon compound, that is pseudoheptulose 7-phosphate is formed. And for this transfer of carbon units to enzymes required is transketolase. Remember, transketolase and transaldolase are the enzymes which transfers carbon unit. Transaldolase transfer 3 carbon atoms, transketolase transfer 2 carbon atom utilizing thiamine pyrophosphate. So here in this case, where ribulose is transferring 2 carbon atom to ribose 5-phosphate, transketolase is required, and xylulose 5-phosphate is converted into glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, and ribose 5-phosphate is converted into pseudoheptulose 7-phosphate. Now this glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate that is formed from xylulose 5-phosphate is entering into the glycolytic pathway because it is an intermediate of glycolysis. On the other hand, now in pseudoheptulose 7-phosphate, the 3 carbon atom from this is transferred to glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, where this glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is converted into fructose 6-phosphate. And pseudoheptulose is converted into erythrose 4-phosphate, and for this transfer of this 3 carbon atom to glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, the enzyme required is transaldolase. As we have seen, transaldolase transfers 3 carbon units. So what happened? The fructose 6-phosphate that is formed is entering into the glycolytic pathway. So what is happening? Ribulose 5-phosphate that is formed from the oxidative reaction is either epimerized to xylulose 5-phosphate or isomerized to ribose 5-phosphate. Ribose 5-phosphate that is formed is involved in nucleic acid synthesis, that is in DNA RNA synthesis. On the other hand, xylulose 5-phosphate that is formed is converted into glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate by transferring 2 electron to ribose 5-phosphate, where ribose 5-phosphate is changed to pseudoheptulose 7-phosphate using the enzyme transketolase. So the glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate that is formed is an intermediate of glycolysis, so it will enter into glycolytic pathway. On the other hand, pseudoheptulose 7-phosphate that is formed is transferring 3 carbon atom to the glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, converting glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate to fructose 6-phosphate. This fructose 6-phosphate is again an intermediate of glycolysis, so it will enter into glycolytic pathway, leaving behind erythrose 4-phosphate, and this is achieved by the enzyme transaldolase. So this is how the non-oxidative reaction of pentose phosphate pathway is taking place. So we are getting NADPH, which we will see its uses. We will see the uses of NADPH, and we are getting ribulose 5-phosphate and how ribulose 5-phosphate is producing intermediates of glycolysis, as well as in the biosynthetic pathway of nucleic acid ribose 5-phosphate is produced. So this is very important. So let's move on to the uses of NADPH. We have seen the uses of the ribulose 5-phosphate in the biosynthesis of nucleic acid and in the intermediates of glycolysis. Now what is the uses of NADPH? First one is the reductive biosynthesis. Like NADH, NADPH can be thought of as a high energy molecule, but the electrons of NADPH are used for reductive biosynthesis, not for the transfer of electron to the electron transport chain as NADH do. So NADPH does not enter into this electron transport chain and oxidative phosphorylation, unlike NADH. So in metabolic transformation of pentose phosphate pathway, a part of energy of glucose 6-phosphate is conserved in NADPH, and this NADPH is used in the biosynthetic reactions like fatty acid, like cholesterol, like steroid, and which requires a electron donor. So NADPH is serving as an electron donor. Now next one is the hydrogen peroxide synthesis. Hydrogen peroxide is a very reactive and harmful oxygen intermediate, and it can cause like damage to DNA and proteins as well as lipids. So this hydrogen peroxide that is produced, they need to be reduced to water, and this is done by the enzyme glutathione peroxidase, which is a selenoprotein which reduces glutathione, this reduced glutathione, to oxidized glutathione. So reduced glutathione is GSH, that means reduced form. When it is forming oxidized glutathione, it is GSSG. And this is done when it is working as a reducing agent to reduce hydrogen peroxide to water. But this oxidized glutathione that is formed is of no use because it has lost its protective property. So we need to regenerate this reduced glutathione. So we have to convert this oxidized glutathione to reduced glutathione, and for converting this oxidized glutathione to reduced glutathione, we require the enzyme glutathione reductase, and this glutathione reductase utilizes NADPH as a source of electron. So what is happening in hydrogen peroxide reduction? Hydrogen peroxide that is produced in the cells, they need to be reduced, and for this reduction we need an enzyme which is glutathione peroxidase, which will act on reduced glutathione, and this reduced glutathione will convert H2O2, that is peroxide, to water, and itself will be converted to oxidized glutathione, and again this oxidized glutathione is converted back to reduced glutathione using glutathione reductase, which requires NADPH. So you can see this is a diagram. You can see this H2O2 has been produced, so this is reduced to water using reduced glutathione. So reduced glutathione and hydrogen peroxide, these two have combined, and reduced glutathione is converted to oxidized glutathione. On On the other hand, this hydrogen peroxide is reduced to water, and for this the enzyme that is required is glutathione peroxidase. Again, this oxidized glutathione has lost its protective properties, so it has to be regenerated to reduced glutathione, and this is done by glutathione reductase, which requires NADPH as an electron donor. So this is how NADPH indirectly is helping in reducing hydrogen peroxide. Note another thing, like reduced glutathione is a tripeptide thiol. That means it consists of 3 amino acid with a thiol group attached to it. You can see this number A. This is the diagram of a reduced glutathione. So it is made up of glycine, cysteine and glutamate with a thiol group attached to it. So this is the glutathione in reduced form. Additional enzymes such as superoxide dimutase and catalase, they catalyze the conversion of these other reactive oxygen species to harmful products. So you can see here oxygen is converted to superoxide. Superoxide is also harmful oxygen intermediate. This superoxide is converted to hydrogen peroxide, and this is achieved by superoxide dimutase. This oxygen can also be converted to catalase, forming hydrogen peroxide. This hydrogen peroxide is again converted to water using the enzyme glutathione peroxidase. So this is how superoxide dimutase or catalase, which is converting hydrogen peroxide to harmless oxygen, is helping us to protect or guarding us against this toxic effects of reaction oxygen species. Now let's see the other uses of NADPH, which is white blood cell phagocytosis and microbe killing. In immunology, we have studied about neutrophils and monocytes, which are armed with both oxygen independent and oxygen dependent mechanism for killing bacteria. In oxygen independent mechanism, the lysosome is involved in it, and we know that in lysosome some acidic digestive enzymes are present and which are very harmful for the bacteria. So what happens when you can see when the bacteria attaches to the cell wall, it is undergoing endocytosis and forming a phagosome. It has formed a phagosome on entering into the cell. This phagosome has combined with lysosome and forming a complex which is phagolysosome. In this lysosome, some acidic enzymes are present, and these are killing the bacteria. So this is how oxygen independent mechanism is used to kill bacteria. And in case of oxygen dependent mechanism, it includes 2 enzymes. That is, one is NADPH dependent oxidase, another one is myeloperoxidase, which work together to kill the bacteria. See, the bacteria oxygen, it has converted to superoxide. This superoxide conversion is done by the enzyme NADPH oxidase using NADPH. Now this superoxide is converted to hydrogen peroxide, and this hydrogen peroxide is combining with a chloride ion, forming hypochlorous, which is killing the bacteria, and for this it is requiring myeloperoxidase. So oxygen to superoxide, superoxide to hydrogen peroxide is combining with a chloride ion, forming hypochlorous acid, which is killing the bacteria. So this is how NADPH is helping in the microbe killing. And the next one is the synthesis of NO. You can see from the diagram that arginine is converted to L-citrulline when NO synthase is acting on it, and this NO synthase requires NADPH to convert arginine to citrulline, and while this reaction is taking place, NO is released, that is nitric oxide is released, and this nitric oxide has several roles. This nitric oxide is the endothelium derived relaxing factor which causes vasodilation by relaxing vascular smooth muscle. It also acts as a neurotransmitter, prevents platelet aggression, and plays an essential role in macrophage function. So you can see the nitric acid which is produced from NO synthase, which require the NADPH to convert arginine to citrulline. This nitric oxide that is produced, it has so many functions. So NADPH in this case is indirectly producing nitric oxide. So these are the few uses of NADPH. So that's all about pentose phosphate pathway, and this is some informations are very important apart from this pathway, like this enzyme, the name of this enzyme, their function, and for the function of NO, and the what is NO synthase is doing. So there are few information that I've put in my slides, and I always try to gather all the necessary information from the exam point of view so that it is helpful for you to gain the knowledge. So I hope this video has helped you. If you have liked the video, please subscribe to my channel and share with your friends. Thank you.